In this video, we're going to cover single point focusing and why every beginner should learn this 5-minute camera feature. Single point focusing is a camera feature that allows you to choose one area in your composition that you want your camera to focus on. Default autofocus has multiple focus points that your camera will try to find areas to focus on. If you have a subject you want to photograph, but there's some foreground matter, your camera's probably going to choose the foreground because your camera is designed to focus on the nearest point. To get around this, simply put your camera in single point focusing, aim at the subject, and your camera will ignore everything else. I first learned this camera feature when I still lived in Banff shooting wildlife. When you use default autofocus, your camera is going to focus on the branches. If I would have known single point focusing, I would have got a great picture of this baby bear in a tree. But then, I didn't know single point focusing. I only use it about 10% of my pictures, but when I do use it, I'm very grateful I know how, because I really like to have foreground elements when I'm shooting a subject. And this way I make sure my camera focuses in the right area. So let's get your camera set up. Most cameras you can use single point focusing when you're in auto mode, but some cameras cannot. So for the purpose of this lesson, let's put our cameras in aperture priority mode. On the mode dial on your camera, look for A or AV if you have a Canon. For most Canon cameras, all you have to do is hit this button on the top right corner. Once you do that, this screen should show up. Once you hit set, it'll put your camera in single point focusing. It's only going to focus where the center dot is. And then hit the set button again to go back to default focus. For some of the mirrorless Canons, you're going to have to hit the Q button on the back of your camera. Then look for the focus area and choose single point. And if you have a touch screen, you could just touch the area on the screen that you want to focus on. For most Nikon cameras, there's an I button somewhere on the back of the camera. Once you select that button, a submenu comes up. Look for the one called AF Area Mode and then choose Single Point. For most Fuji and Sony cameras, there's a button that says FN. There should be an option for AF Area Mode, and then you're either going to have to choose Single or Flexible. For full frame Nikons, there's a button on the side of your camera right here. You hold this button down and then spin your front command dial. Auto is autofocus. S means single. A lot of cameras will have other advanced options you can learn later, but most of your photography is going to be default autofocus. Then the second most popular one is going to be single point. Most cameras also give you the option to use your directional pad to change where on the screen you want your single point focus to be. It takes about 3 or 4 tries until you remember how to get to single point focusing, and I highly recommend you get to the point where you can put your camera in single point focusing in 8 seconds or less. If you see a bird on a tree or a moose behind the shed, you want to make sure you got the right focus point, because wildlife won't wait that long before they're gone. Single point focusing is also very handy when it's low light, like a concert, a party, or even urban street photography. Your manual will cover single point focusing as well as the advanced options very well. There's also other YouTube videos specific to your camera model and brand. If you've been following my beginner photography series from the beginning, I want you to see how far you've come. This is a promo picture I took at my friend's eatery 7 years ago. I shot this in aperture mode and I shot wide. I used single point focusing. I used exposure compensation to slightly brighten the image, and I used a 50mm prime lens. The result was pretty good for my first time doing this style of photography. Saskatchewan Tourism put it in their magazine for a couple years. And this is only using a handful of camera features I just taught you. Now a professional would have done a better job. A professional would have walked in with 2 camera bags. They would have set up a tripod, a lighting kit, shot in manual mode, and done metering and white balance. That would have taken about 15 to 20 minutes to get set up and shot. Most of us aren't trying to get to professional photographer level. We just want to be very good. It only takes a couple hours and you can use the equipment you already own. If you do have any questions or comments or suggestions about this video, please leave it in the comment section below and I will respond. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see all my beginner photography series videos. And here is a tip from my wife. When you're finished with single point focusing, put it back to default focus. When you turn your camera off and put it back on, it does not reset itself. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video.